I'm Emma Louise Coffey and you're welcome to the Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. On this week's show, dairy advisor Brian Hilliard explains the concept of once-a-day milking across the entire lactation and how it works in practice as a solution to the increasing labour demand within expanding dairy herds in Ireland.
There are approximately somewhere between 40, maybe up to 50 farmers on full lactation on once-a-day milking, right throughout the country, from Teagasc to Wexford and so on, right across in most counties have some people milking once-a-day full-time, yeah. And of course, you have a lot more farmers in that do practice once-a-day milking in the springtime, maybe for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and also some would practice once-a-day milking in the autumn time.
And in terms of the 40 or 50 farmers who are once-a-day milking across the full lactation, what are the decisions around once-a-day milking? The
reasons I went once-a-day milking, I suppose, really is, labour obviously is a big one, labour and lifestyle. So look, from what of the farmers I know making once-a-day full-time, the head size ranges from somewhere around 50 cows up to 250 cows. So labour and lifestyle would be a big issue with those people. Also, the farmers have gone once-a-day milking because of the distance the cows have to walk. Fragmented farms, other farmers, maybe very hilly farms where it's too much stress on cows to walk up hills twice a day, so they've gone to once-a-day milking. Other people have gone to once-a-day milking because they have a job outside the farm. They still want to keep on the dairy cows, and so they've gone to once-a-day milking for that reason, and our farm jobs. And even in the more recent years, some dry stock farmers are going to milk production, but some of them don't want to milk cows twice a day. They prefer to just, if they could manage it once a day, yeah. So there's a whole lot of different reasons why people have gone to once a day. And actually a lot of people are still, I'm finding a lot of people are actually inquiring about it a lot in the last year or two. And just looking for more information about going once a day.
And I guess, what are the main advantages that these farmers have seen since they have transitioned maybe from twice a day to once a day milking?
Obviously, lifestyle is a huge advantage. I mean, not being tied down to milking every evening. That's a huge advantage. All those farmers, really, they all milk the cows at the same time in the morning. The rest of the day then to do whatever they want to do, gives them more time to manage grassland, whatever else. So the lifestyle is a huge advantage of that. And I suppose it takes a lot of stress off farmers as well. Not trying to, especially in the springtime when the workload is so heavy. So labour, lifestyle are the big advantages. I suppose that's on the human side of it. On the animal side, cows a lot less lameness. The better fertility. So there's a lot of those side advantages of once-a-day milking as well.
And I guess wherever we have advantages, there are also disadvantages. And what are the main disadvantages farmers have seen where they're engaging in once a day?
I suppose the big disadvantage is the drop in milk yield, mixed solids, especially in the first year or two. So that is probably one of the bigger disadvantages of it. And because of the drop in yield, there'll be a drop in income as well. So the other thing I suppose farmers need to watch for too on once a day is cell count. Cell count can rise quite a bit when farmers transition to once a day milking. But so it's important that people prepare for not just go suddenly into once a day, though, thinking of the consequences. They want to prepare for it a few years in advance, I think, anyway.
Just to pick up there, Brian, you said that there was a drop in milk yield and milk solids. What sort of would you expect theoretically in the amount of the reduction?
The reduction can vary, I suppose, with the type of cow that farmers have. Look, as a kind of a ballpark figure, the general reduction on 25% in milk volume with a consequent drop in milk solids of 20%. But look, it's more. There's a bigger drop with more Frisian type cows. Also, the first calves that hit hardest once they're making their yields will suffer more than mature cows. So the crossbred, the black and white Jersey crossbred cow seems to be a very good cow for once they're milking. Having said that, there are a number of farmers with black and white cows, Holstein Frisian cows, who are actually achieving quite good yields on once a day as well.
And just to pick up then on the fertility performance, you mentioned that as an advantage and you tend to see slightly better fertility performance. Can you quantify that based on the herds that you see? Have they a higher 6-week calving rate, or is there any other metrics that you can compare them, say, to twice a day milking farms?
Well, look, the people that are doing a good job in once a day milking will be getting over a 90% 6-week calving rate. That would be common enough with the better operators and the people that are at it for a few years. So definitely, because cows are in better body condition at breeding time, you have a higher fertility, a higher conception rate. So that would be the better people will be achieving 90% plus even on once a day milking. Yeah.
And in terms of profitability, you mentioned that it takes a few years to establish yourself as a once-a-day farmer and kind of stabilise performance. Is there much of a difference between, say, the average farmer milking twice a day and the average farmer milking once a day?
The profitability will, as I said, will be hit the first year or two are the worst years because you have cows in any herd that's not suited to once a day milking. Others will do actually quite well and make their way as good as they ever did on twice a day, and you have cows in between. So after a few years, farmers that stick with once a day milking, the cows that don't suit will be culled out of the herd, and you are breeding in from cows that just suit. So we reckon it takes about 4 or 5 years to bridge the gap in profitability being once a day and twice a day.
And to pick up on that, Brian, would culling be quite high in the first couple of years relative to what you would normally expect in a twice-a-day herd?
Well, again, as I said, it can be the more say British Frisian type of herd. They're the ones that seem to suffer most on once they're milking. The reduction in milk is higher than a Holstein Frisian cow or a crossbred cow. So there could be more culling in some herds. What we would advise actually farmers that are thinking of going once a day is maybe build up heifer numbers, build up extra heifer numbers to allow for that happening, for the extra culling. And as I said, over a few years then you are breeding from cows that the once a day system suits. So you are breeding a better type of animal for once a day milking over time. That's why we probably say it takes about 4 or 5 years to transition properly.
And when we're talking about breeding heifers for a once-a-day system, what are the key traits that you'd consider when selecting sires for a once-a-day herd?
I think generally, as a very general guideline, the better EBI bulls, they seem to be also doing better on once-a-day, right? Crossbred Jersey bulls also, offspring of those, are doing quite well. But generally, I look as a rule of thumb, good EBI bulls, and okay, you would put a particular eye as well on health issues. You'd like bulls that would produce heifers with good mastitis resistance, and also heifers with good udders and mammary systems, because obviously on once a day milking there is more pressure on the udder and with once a day milking. So those are traits we would look on as well, apart from the production traits.
And I guess you mentioned the 4 to 5 years. This is a long-term. This is a long-term option for people, and you're not going to see the benefits of once a day in year 1 or 2. It'll be in year five when things settle down.
Well, year 5 is the guard's income, but I think you'll see the benefits of once a day milking immediately. Like any farmers making once a day, lameness is practically reduced out of herds with once a day milking, and obviously cows are in far better condition. There'll be less loss of first calvers through infertility. You'll have a higher retention of those animals in the herd, and that's all money saving as well. So I think some benefits you'll see immediately. On the income side, obviously it'll take a few years. And also, I suppose, depends too how well someone prepares going into once they're making, getting the right type of cow, getting mastitis under control. So, I think people should spend 2 or 3 years in advance of going once before they actually go ahead and preparing for it.
Just another question in terms of management, Brian. Are these cows eating less than their counterparts on twice a day milking?
Probably very little less. The research tells us that they eat maybe a small bit less, but not very much, because what they don't give in production, the cows put it on condition on themselves. So that's why the cows are in better body condition, and that's what gives them the extra fertility as well. Having said that, some of these herds once they are making over 400 kilos, and quite close. A lot of herds are making quite close to 400 kilos, in some cases over 400 kilos of mixed solids. So a lot of those herds are actually making more than the average on twice a day. So those herds Those cows still need to be fed properly, I think.
So, I mean, at 400 kilos, that's very comparable with the average cow in the national dairy herd being milked twice a day.
Well, when you compare the figures to the farmers' own co-ops, many of them are actually over the average for the co-op milking once a day. So, I mean, those cows are producing just as good and more than a lot of cows on twice a day.
If farmers are considering and contemplating once a day as an option for their herd, who should they talk to, or what should they do?
Well, they can contact any of us in Teagasc. They have an interest in the once a day milking, and I would also advise them to talk to farmers that are established at once a day milking. We have quite a number of farmers ring up looking for information, so we do what we can to advise them, and also we will give them the names of other farmers who are milking once a day for a good number of years, and those farmers are given obviously permission for us to do that. So, and the other thing is maybe any meetings they can go to. There are some meetings throughout the country on once a day farms, and we had a conference there last January. So anything like that they can go to, I would advise them to go to it, and I think particularly go to talk to good once a day farmers as well.
That's great. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Emma.
That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Brian Hilliard for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and for more information go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.